Yo, what's up, all you burner stones and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
I'm all right.
Hey, all you vipers out there in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. Mrs. Weedman and I are about to get normal. And we're smoking a strain grown by our friend Big Earl, sparkling wine, which he just delivered a couple weeks ago to us, and I have saved this strain for the show before we smoked it. And we've smoked it on previous episodes. This is one of his staples in his beautiful garden that Big Earl has. So Big Earl, thank you for throwing to the cause as always. And we're about to get started here with some sparkling wine. And before we really get started with the show, we had a friend pass away that we know in the cannabis industry. It was more of an acquaintance, a gromie, a homie, somebody we've seen at plenty of cannabis events, and a phenomenal grower. One of my favorite strains he grows was Bruce Banner and Gabriel from Three Trees. God rest your soul. Rest in power. Rest in peace. We'll miss you on the trail. We'll miss seeing you, smoking weed with you. And just, you're an overall, we're an amazing human being. You were fun to talk to. You had a lot of knowledge on the grow. And I know a lot of people out there who knew you and know you and saw you at events and probably got their weed from you are going to miss the hell out of you. So rest in power, rest in peace, Gabriel. We love you, man. Peace. It's always sad to see a friend, a fellow stoner, burner, pothead pass away. You know, when you don't, we weren't buddies and talked all the time, but you see somebody out at these cannabis events and you keep in touch. He sponsored our show, our 420 show last year, and he'd always give us weed for the show. We'd always highlight his weed on the show. It was always fun smoking his strains. He was a phenomenal grower and just an overall good human being. And it's just sad when you see somebody pass at a very young age, and so much it was just sad to hear about it. So I hate death sometimes, especially when you take somebody so young. So we'll miss you, Gabriel, at the events, and hopefully we'll see. Hopefully at the pearly gates you had a big fat doink waiting for you of some Bruce Banner when you walk through them, buddy. And hopefully we'll see you again someday. So rest in peace.
He also was very good with his social media. He was just spot on with his
social media.
His 80s and 90s music references and memes, and he just had a good sense of humor and a good sense of music.
Yes.
I loved it. I loved what he did. But he really was a pleasure to run into.
Yeah.
The last time I smoked with him, we were under a tent at I don't remember who was hosting the particular event, but it was at the Emporium Arcade.
Replay.
At Replay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Always a good time. Yeah. Always great flower. Always great
phenomenal
flower.
And
he really cared about, he was a caregiver grower. He cared about his craft grow, and it was a craft to him. It really was important.
Yeah. If you got to see his setup on pictures and how he grew, and it was really nice.
Pretty cool.
So we'll miss you. We'll miss you, buddy. What else? Oh, you had something to talk about, something interesting.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Tell us about
I was out
it.
with clients, and clients with real estate, and the wife was talking about having a younger sibling who was in her teen years. So, because it was a reference to alcohol and cannabis, I'm assuming she was probably college age. But the craziest thing, I guess, her sister had drank over this particular weekend before I had met them out. So I met them last weekend. So maybe the weekend before that, her sister apparently had drinks rather than having cannabis. And I guess it was an embarrassing thing. It was like, wait, repeat that. She's like, yes, for her and her friend group, to drink alcohol is something to be embarrassed about. And to consume cannabis is what you do.
Is normal.
It's just the normal.
Let's get normal.
That is crazy. I love that. I love that the next generation doesn't know the stigmas that we had ingrained
grew up with, and we had
in our
beaten
heads.
into us.
Yeah. And to them, it's just like, it just makes sense. Why wouldn't you consume cannabis?
Yeah. And we've talked about how the younger generation...
why would you be so dumb to have alcohol?
Yeah. We're talking about how the younger generation is leaving alcohol and going more towards cannabis and stuff that's more friendly for their body instead of, I mean, I do like a good beer. I was just having a conversation with somebody about this. I do still enjoy a beer. I do. I don't drink hard alcohol. Very rare.
I still enjoy a glass of bourbon, but not very frequently.
Rare. I mean,
it's like,
a good cocktail is a good
cocktail is nice,
but I don't drink like that anymore. I mean, we had one beer on Super Bowl Sunday, and I don't even think you and I finished it.
We're big wimps.
Yeah.
We polished off some joints.
Oh my God, we smoked from the time we woke up to the time we went to bed. We smoked a lot of weed that day, and it was amazing. There's a strain that Big Earl gave us, and it's grown. I didn't want to smoke it on this episode because it's a very body high. Like you melt. Like I was. So Big Earl got us a strain grown by the breeder is Seattle Seed Chronic, and Big Earl grew it though. And this I just called it Seattle Chronic. Just after him, there was really no name to it, but it has a ton of CBG, CBD, THC, and some other minor cannabinoids, and it was a body melter.
But it was like a headbanger too. It was like you knew you were baked. You didn't have to think like, did I smoke? Like you had a nice.
Oh yeah, it was a beautiful high. We smoked that
function,
all weekend.
But
but there was a point I was sitting at the computer gaming, and I forgot I was gaming, and I was just melting in the chair. And I was talking to some people on Discord, and I even forgot I was on Discord. I was just so in just a body, just no pain in my back. No pain anywhere, and I was just melting in the chair. Next thing you know, like how sometimes when you sit, your head is resting, but your back's not touching anything, and just maybe the tip of your butt is on the chair.
Yeah,
this is how I was kind of sitting on this chair. I was basically, you can all see this if you're on video. I was basically like sitting like this.
Almost laying down.
I was like this, kind of like this, and my back wasn't touching anywhere on the chair.
just your neck and
just
your
my
butt.
neck and my butt, and I think my legs were floating. I don't even think I was touching the floor. And so if you are a grower or home grower out there, reach out to our friend Seattle Seed Chronic on Instagram and buy that genetics from him. I highly recommend that strain if you have pain, agony. And the agony of the Chiefs losing of defeat, as we were talking about on Sunday, that strain is marvelous. It is absolutely what have I said for years? I've always wanted somebody to make a strain with more cannabinoids, higher
Lower
percentage,
THC,
yes,
higher cannabinoid.
Right. Give me that 10% THC, maybe like 5% CBG, 3% CBC, 6% CBD. Give me them all. I want them all. And now I know why even more. To be able to finally smoke when it had more of higher ranges of those cannabinoids. So check out Seattle Seed Chronic on Instagram and tell them Mr. and Mrs. Weedman sent you from Weedman 420 Chronicles, the Grow Hour. And tell him you want that. If he has any packs left, you want that pack. Oh, my God. I know Big Earl and I split of 4 or 5 packs, so I know he's got more. But I gave some of it out to some people too, and I'm kind of bummed that I didn't hoard it for myself.
If you have all females, you can't get more seeds. How would you get more seeds from that? But
Earl's got packs.
Earl has packs.
They're probably, I don't know if they're feminized.
Right.
I don't know if they're auto femmes,
right.
or I don't think they're auto femmes. I don't even know if they're femmes. They could just be regs, and where he gets male and
but
females.
But he could clone them too, right?
Yeah, he can clone them too. Find a nice mom and clone it. So, but I know he's got more packs. I think we bought like 4 or 5 packs.
What about those tissues transfers?
He can do that too. Tissue culture.
Cultures.
Yeah, you could do that too.
And that'll grow a plant too.
Yeah.
And can you save that for a long time?
Oh yeah, you can put it in his vault.
Is it like refrigerated?
I think it's a certain temperature.
Like a biological.
Yes. It's
box.
a big. It's pretty neat. You could check out his Instagram at or Deep Root Genetics.
So the tissue
Instagram.
culture is the equivalent of having seeds.
Basically, you're just culturing a little piece of the plant, and you put it on this little petri dish with some mixture that he puts. And then it just all of a sudden looks like a little alien popping up out of nowhere.
It just grows.
It just grows.
Like just one plant will grow out of that culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Did you see when he came by with those clones?
Yeah. Those are from tissue culture?
Tissue culture, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I'm telling you what, though, that Seattle Chronic by Seattle Seed Chronic, grown by Big Earl, but bred and probably grown by Seattle Seed Chronic, I'm telling you right now,
was
if
good
you
stuff.
are interested in something that's going to be what people want, go talk to him or listen.
that kind
or
of
listen
high-
to our episodes on the Grow Hour too.
It's the kind of high that you used to get, the kind of high that you want to achieve and you look for sometimes, that just you feel baked.
Yes.
Some weed you smoke and it's like, all right, my body feels great, but not doing much up here. And then other stuff is like super head high and
This
nothing for your
was-
body. This was just kind of like,
I think
this
it might
all
even had
over-
some CBC in there too, which is all
Yeah.
brain. I think that's why I felt so alert. But even though my
I
body,
was gonna say,
my
I
body
wasn't-
was melting.
I wasn't
but
as
I was
slumpy.
totally clear.
I was more,
Yeah. I was totally able. I mean, I was stoned, but I was totally clear-minded. But body was just like melting. Oh my god, it was so good, so good. And it just here's the thing: not everybody has the luxury like we have, and people I know that grow. Variety is the spice of life. Don't get stuck on smoking the same strain. Excuse me, everybody. Constantly smoking the same strain, like the same one over. We rotate
all the time.
I mean, we rotate our day stuff. We rotate our night stuff.
But we're always introducing new stuff too.
Right.
Our
which is good.
rotation isn't. Maybe there's a handful of strains that we lean toward.
Yes.
And then there's a bunch of other new stuff coming and
But
going.
we're always rotating though at night. Like right
yeah.
now we're smoking 4 different strains at night for bed. Lava
Not at
cake.
once.
No. But each night we're smoking.
Give me that one. Give me that one.
Not saying it hasn't
Give me that
happened
joint.
before. But all last week we rotated between 4 strains for bed.
Yeah.
Gelato, Oreos, Slurricane, and what was the other one? Oh, lava cake. Did I say lava cake? No, I didn't. Lava cake, Oreos, gelato, and Slurricane are the 4
that
we've been
strawberry
rotating.
one?
No, that's daytime.
That's
I'm just talking about
daytime.
nighttime.
Just
We've been
nighttime.
rotating our different 4
We
now
have.
all last week. So, and then now that's Seattle Chronic.
Yeah.
And we also there was one I wanted to smoke today, but I decided against it, and that was the Apricoma.
Oh yeah, because we haven't tried it yet.
Well, but I also read about it, and it's a total sleep weed. Like it says, this will put you to sleep.
No,
I was like,
so we'd be
hell
be
yeah.
sloths.
I know what I'm smoking after the show. I'm not smoking.
We would be
I'm not
sloths.
smoking this show, so I'm not going to smoke it during the show. But here, it is. That sparkling wine is really good.
Yeah.
Oh man, good job, Big Earl.
It's nice.
But yeah, so that was a strain we didn't get. We'll test it out first, see how it makes it feel, and then maybe we'll be able to do it on the show. Because our friend Igneous made fun of me one time, and I loved it. And he goes, "Man, you and Mrs. Weedman were smoking a strain, and you could just hear your voice go." And I was dying. I was like, "Holy shit, you're right." Because I remember I went back and listened to what he said, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I was fucking." But you make fun of me too.
You get slumpy sometimes.
I do get slumpy. It's hard, man, when you're smoking all indica strains. I mean,
But we do intentionally consume and talk about the strain that we're consuming.
Yes.
Because strains have different effects on everybody.
Yep.
One, right? And we want to stomp the stigma by educating. So if we can tell you about a strain, we're educating you. If we can tell you about how we're consuming it, we're educating you. And then if you could see and hear how it maybe changes our
wow,
communications
we're trying to read,
and
too.
it changes our ability, like it changes our energy and the vibe. So a lot changes when we consume, but it's not necessarily bad. It's just, I think, a way of trying to help people understand the feelings, so that if they're early in their consumption, they can recognize, like, oh yeah, I saw this happen to them. Like, oh yeah, like they said, Igneous said we went from talking normal to talking really slow and quiet, probably, and really blah blah blah. Yeah, so I think that's part of the learning process.
Yes.
So that's why we do it.
And like I said, we are blessed by a lot of growers and we've met. And myself growing to be able to try so many different strains and get excited about stuff maybe I haven't had in years, or new stuff I've never got a chance to try. That's the exciting factor of variety for me is the key. Like going to a dispensary too, you get a lot of variety. There's a lot of different strains. Just don't get stuck on that one and use it all the time. If you like it,
Like
great.
have your go-tos, but
step away
explore.
from it for a little bit,
Yeah.
though. Like, give it a break for like a week and smoke some other stuff, because you might find something that your endocannabinoid system might like better. Or those cannabinoids, there might be different cannabinoids in there too that your body was like, oh man, that was a good strain. So,
But there's also like different strains for different things. It depends on what you're doing.
Right, that's true too. Yeah,
And you have to get to know what those are.
Yeah, that's 100%.
So, and there's a learning curve because sometimes you take that sloth and you're like going to a show.
Yes, yeah,
You're like, I guess I'm not dancing.
Yes,
Not for a minute.
no, I'm going to be hanging on the wall here. The wall's going to be holding me up.
This whole wall is great. It's great.
Oh shit! You made some delicious edibles this weekend.
I did.
Oh my god! Again, that's a
happy.
double. Oh my god!
I'm
right
happy.
there. Mrs Weedman's back. She's back.
I
Everybody.
don't know if I'm back, but I'm getting there, guys.
Man, I tell you what, you haven't bought these out in a while, and we have a lot of different recipes and a lot of different names that I'm not going to mention anymore because I know someone has taken one of my names that I've thrown out there, which is fine. It's great. Ideas are free, all right? And
that should be like that's my theme.
They are.
God.
Ideas are free.
Ideas are free. Can I tattoo that on my? I don't want words necessarily, but those ones.
And where was I going? I don't know. So different ideas, but also different recipes, different names. I'm not telling you the name of this one.
Oh yeah, my recipe.
Yes, I'm not telling you the name of this
Nope,
one at all.
and he's not allowed to even talk about what's in them.
Ideas are free.
They're chocolate.
Yeah,
that's what you
that's
get to
all
know.
you need to know.
And they're
But
good.
these are so pillowy and so fluffy and so creamy.
It's
and
almost
so
like
smooth. Don't tell them.
It's like brownie batter, but it is kind of a pillowy, like a chewy but pillowy texture.
Come hang out with Mr. and Mrs. Weedman. Maybe we'll give you a couple to try.
Maybe.
Yeah, these are really good. You did yourself. It's been a while because we only made this recipe one other time, and I've been bugging you for like 6 months to make this recipe again, and you finally did it, and you didn't lose. I don't think you lost your touch on it.
No,
I think you did pretty good, and I love watching you mix in a bowl too. Though you just know how to fucking stir
I know how
the
to
pot.
make that shit. It's hard to be cooking though when your taste buds aren't right because it just not so much baking, but cooking is
Right.
a challenge.
Oh,
You can't. How do you
really-
I season by taste? You
Right.
know, it's like you throw this in, you throw that in. Yeah.
Little pinch of
Grab
this,
something
pinch of
else.
that.
I don't know. I don't necessarily have a recipe.
Right.
I do, but I don't. But with baking, it's very.
Yeah, you have
I
to
don't.
stick
You
by the
don't veer
recipe.
off of. Yeah.
Can't.
You need a recipe.
But it's a little flop, or as Paul always says, come stodgy. Polly Hollywood, stodgy.
So, yeah, I can bake
Right.
without having taste buds, and usually comes out right. But I felt like my cooking was just off whack for a bit, and I think I'm getting back there.
I just enjoy when you cook.
I think I just had problems for a minute, just across the board.
Hey, on your arm, ideas are free.
Ideas are free.
I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
There is I wouldn't be Weedman 420 puffing away in my costume if I didn't just talk about something that it's happened to me, but when you see it to happen to people who you know, kind of makes you a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for?
Conscientious of it.
Yeah, but not anger. I'm not looking for anger at this. I guess it's heartfelt. I guess it's because it's happened to me, but also when you know the people and you know what you went through, and you see that person, how hard they worked for a company, and blood, sweat, and tears, and time away from your family, and or families. This has happened to multiple people in the cannabis industry. So especially after the holidays, when I saw everybody on LinkedIn put open for hire, open for hire, open for hire. You see all the people and knowing that it's happened to you multiple times, where you're shocked, you didn't know it was coming, and hit you square in the kisser, and you're like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do now? Kind of thing. That's the first thought that went in my head. Like, I have a wife who's home that needs health insurance, need an income. We have bills got to put food on the table. And as being a provider, like I've always been, when you lose that for a second, you like your heart drops to your stomach. So that's your work. That's what you do. You put 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week sometimes into something to help a corporation grow, profit, so they can keep paying you to work, and to all of a sudden just rip it out of your soul. And here's a piece of paper. Here's a severance package if you get one, if you're lucky enough to get one. Thank you. Not even a thank you. Just here you go. And you get a call usually from somebody in the office, and now you don't even get called to an office because everything's remote, so you have to do it on a fucking Zoom call or whatever they use, Google Meets or whatever. And I got laid off.
Yeah, it only
in my
happened
car.
once.
No, twice. I got laid off in my car in the cannabis industry, yes, but
Yeah.
I've gotten laid off in another industry before. And you're sitting in your car when this happens. You're actually out in the market working, and all of a sudden you get a time thing going, a 12 o'clock call with certain people in the C-suite.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
You called me like,
Well, I all of a sudden like you get this like calendar invite at like 7 a.m. You're like, oh shit, what the hell's, and it's just you. It's not a team meeting. It's not a.
But everybody above you is there.
Right.
Yeah.
And you being at my age and being in different industries for as long as I have, I've seen this before, so I kind of knew. And the first thing I did was call you, and I'm like, I think I'm getting shit canned today. And you're like, what? No way. I'm like, listen, I know this routine. I've been around the block 2-3 times. And what happened? I said I'll call you after the appointment was at noon, Illinois time, Central time versus California time. And you get that call, you're done in 30 minutes, and you're just like stunned. You want to say something, and it takes everything out of you not to say something, but you want to. I mean, there was a point where I wanted to rip their souls out, and then you got to call if you have a partner, or if you have a husband or a wife, or or family. You have to call somebody because you're just in shock. And you're at loss for words, and you call looking for some comfort. And then, like, I called you, and you were like, you were right. And I texted my group chat that I had with team members and said it was great working with you, and everybody was shocked. And then you get a severance package that'll usually last a month, 2 months if you're lucky. Mm-hmm. Then you got to get on Cobra, which is fucking, for you and I, it was over $1,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And how am I supposed to pay $1,000 a month? I'm out of work. Mm-hmm. Unemployment's giving me $210 every 2 weeks. So there's no help for people medically. If you can't afford Cobra, you're done. Right? You lose your medical. Or you're doing whatever you can to keep that. Barring Peter, taking your savings, put it on your credit card, and then you're fucking in debt. It might take you 6 months to get a job by the time you get hired nowadays, because there's a 5 interview process nowadays just to get hired for a job. Mm-hmm. Usually it used to be 2 interviews, and you were good to go or beat it. And
there's time between these 5 interviews. It's not like
Crazy.
they expedite.
It could be like
they
2
don't
months.
keep you moving along. Yeah, they just
could be 2 months
keep
before
you
start.
hanging, wondering if you're going to get this job.
So meanwhile, you're going broke, kids to feed, maybe not, maybe just a shelf to feed, whatever your life is, and you're out of work. And you're fucking panic-stricken. And you come home, and it's like your best friend, your dog died, kind of thing. When you come home, you're kind of somber. You're kind of like, what the? Then you play in your head, what did I do wrong? Was it me? Did I fuck up at this meeting? Did I not make enough sales? Did I not do this? Did I not do that? And then the seed of doubt comes in. Then a little bit of maybe depression comes in. Then anxiety fucking kicks in. Thank God for cannabis, I swear on that. But it's a mental, full heart breakdown for the first maybe couple of days, because you're just trying to figure out what the fuck happened. What did you do wrong to get laid off or let go? This is not just the cannabis industry. This is every industry, everybody.
Across the board.
But I mean, I'm 52 and I've been laid off once before, fired one other time, but that's it. You have your things that happens, and you're just like, what do you just so I feel for people that this just happened to, and happened to two friends of mine that I worked with in a cannabis gig when I first started in the industry, both on the West Coast, phenomenal people, and one of them is going to be a dad soon, twins. What do you do? Now, the other one, I don't know if has a family or not. No, personally worked with them, and what do you do? You're like, you got to come home and tell your significant other, your partner, I just lost my job, and we have twins on the way. How could you be that company knowing that this person or that person has kids on the way?
Well, and here's the thing. I think behind what you're trying to say about these scenarios, the time you were let go because it was just a layoff, and these guys just recently getting let go because it was a layoff, or the cutbacks, blah 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 blah, whatever they want to call it, right? Like you said, here's your little severance package to make it feel better. It's just we're moving on in a different direction,
right?
Whatever they say.
But I'm going to give you a catch after you're done with your talk.
And I'm so baked that I forgot where I was going with this. I will get there. But, yeah, I don't even know.
So you ready for the kicker, though?
Yeah. What?
You ready for the kicker?
Oh, I know what it is.
Go
Wait.
ahead.
You weren't getting fired because of a lack of performance. You were getting laid off because they didn't really have a reason to fire you.
Right.
So it's a blow because across the board your peers are shocked, just like you're shocked, because you were performing.
Right.
You were making the company happy.
Sometimes it's favoritism. Sometimes it's they bring in new upper management, and that new upper management wants to bring in their own people and hire their own staff and get rid of the old because they didn't hire them, they didn't coach them, they didn't supposedly mentor them and do all the stuff they say the C-suite people say they do, and they wind up just bringing in their own people that they can puppet. And the thing that catch on all of this, and why I think I'm more upset than anything else, is not just 2 hours later, once these people got laid off, the jobs were reposted.
Available.
The same jobs available.
It's like 2 hours.
Like 2 hours.
And with great excitement.
Yeah. That's the injustice of it all. That is why it's not. This isn't only happening in cannabis, everybody. This is every corporate company. Not every, but a lot. Okay? And it's just the injustice of what type of weed man would I be without sticking up for a homie, couple of homies, and also all the homies that got laid off that I saw people posting on LinkedIn. And for all you out there, I feel for you. I hope that you can get with a better company, one that's going to do what they say they're going to do and entrust in you to help build profits and help build the company grow. There are companies out there that are like that, and I still fight for the little guy. Mrs. Weedman will always tell you this. I still fight for the mom and pop. I will always, to the day I die, fight for a mom and pop company versus a corporation. And Mrs. Weedman knows how I feel about corporate anything. And I feel for you all. But if you can find and I know it's not always easy to work for a family-owned company because they don't always have the money to give the benefits that people need because they're just starting out their business themselves, or they're not making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, but they make enough to help provide for you to get a job or a stepping stone to get to your next spot. And what I always appreciate about mom and pop businesses, they did care about you. If you gave them 100% while you were out there working, they'd give you the shirt off their back.
And most of them would give you more than they're able to give you.
I mean, I had a family-owned company when my dad passed away, gave me $1,000 to pay our mortgage.
Yeah, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that. And there's a difference. And I feel for you all out there, and I love you, and hopefully all of you who have gotten laid off or fired or companies closing or being bought out and letting go the whole staff, hopefully you all can find something that's for you and right for you, no matter where you go into this world in your job life. And, hopefully, just blessings and favor upon you all out there. So in this time. So, and for my homies out west, love you. Hopefully we'll bring you soon to something. Got anything else?
I think we need to lift it up a little bit.
Yeah, let's lift it up and get going with the show, everybody.
Let's get happy.
You ready to get started?
Because we got a little somber there with our story. But it is just the reality that a lot of people are facing right now, so it's important to talk about. But yeah, let's move on and
ready to start the show?
Tell some stories.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the last 2-3 weeks, I have not talked about this. I mean, I talked about it briefly that I was going to discuss it, is this whole cannabis and brain function research from 18 to 35. They did a test on it. It shows that you lose memory by smoking cannabis. I've read, you don't even understand the rebuttals versus the people who wrote the article and everything that came out after it. Boom, 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 both sides. Boom, 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 boom. I read a lot. I did. And I don't always. Sometimes I'll read the main article that discussed it, but I was disgusted by it a little bit, and then I found this one article that made sense to my pea brain, and I thought after all the good, the bad, the ugly, I thought this one made the most sense to me. So here you go. Ready?
Okay.
Five huge flaws in the cannabis and brain function research. Are we really seeing damage? Or is it just bad science? 5 huge flaws in the cannabis and brain function research. If you've read the headlines lately, or for the 4.4 million people who saw Huberman's tweets, you'd think cannabis users are on one hit away from forgetting their own names. Studies claim cannabis impairs brain function, wrecks memory, and shrinks gray matter like a raisin in the sun. But hold up, how reliable is the research really? The recent study published in JAMA, Brain Function Outcomes, a recent and lifetime cannabis use, claims the heavy cannabis use is linked to lower brain activation during working memory tasks. Sounds alarming. But before we start panicking, quit puffing, allow this journalist to help you take a hard look at 5 serious flaws in how cannabis and brain function research is done, and why the truth is far more complicated than the headlines suggest. The truth will set you free, everybody. Remember that. Correlation is not causation, but it sure sells headlines. Most cannabis and brain function studies are cross-sectional, meaning they take a single snapshot in time. Imagine looking at a photo of someone drenched in water and declaring they must have jumped into a pool. Maybe, but maybe it was rain. Maybe they spilled their drink. Maybe they just fucking sweat a lot. Why this is a problem for cannabis research. Although the authors of the work and the editors of the magazines that gets lots of press would love for you to let them to thinking for you. We don't know if cannabis use caused brain changes or if people with certain brain differences were more likely to use cannabis in the first place. Did other factors, stress, genetics, environment, diet, sleep habits, play a bigger role? We don't know, because this kind of study can't tell us. Brain activation differences don't automatically mean damage. Sometimes they mean efficiency. Lower activation could just mean the brain is working smarter, not harder. We need some better science. Longitude studies the track of individuals before they start using cannabis and monitor changes over time. Until then, it's all just educated guesswork. The cannabis conundrum, science, stigma, and the battle against bias. There's a reason why cannabis research often reads like a scripted episode of Reefer Madness, and it has little to do with the plant itself. Unlike pharmaceuticals with billion-dollar research budgets and legions of lobbyists, cannabis is a natural medicine that is, by its very nature, threatens entrenched industries, from big pharma, big alcohol, to big tobacco. Let's be clear. There's no money in proving cannabis is safe. There's no financial incentive for massive multi-center trials to validate the therapeutic potential the way there is for, say, the next blockbuster psychiatric drug. The machine that funds research thrives on penetrable synthetic compounds, not a plant that anyone can grow. Why does this matter? Because in real, honest, you like that? Honest? Honest. I don't think I can pronounce it right, so I'm just going to let it go. Honest
there you
science. You don't set out to prove a position. You set out to explore a hypothesis. Yet, the loop-sided cultural bias against cannabis means the most studies don't ask this. How can cannabis be safely incorporated into medicine? Big question mark. What populations might benefit the most? Question mark. What are the full mechanisms, both harms and benefits, of cannabinoids in the brain? Instead, the dominant research questions tend to sound more like, how does cannabis impair brain function? How addictive is cannabis? What are the risks of the long-term cannabis use? Do you see the problem? If you only look for harm, you'll find it. That's confirmation biased at its finest. And it's precisely why cannabis science demands extra skepticism. The missing education. Why doctors know next to nothing about cannabis. Ask the average physician how cannabis interacts with the endocannabinoid system, the regulatory network that influences pain, mood, immune function, and cognition, and you'll likely get blank stares. Why? Because cannabis is not taught in med school. That's right. While future doctors get hundreds of hours of training on opioids, antidepressants, and every manner of synthetic pharmaceutical, they receive next to nothing on the body's own cannabinoid system. A system that is literally in every human being. The irony of this all, we teach doctors about opioid receptors, but not about the cannabis receptors, even though one class of drug is fueling an overdose epidemic and the other has never killed anyone. The blind spot in education has consequences. Doctors who fall to outdated prohibition era myths about cannabis. Medical professionals rely on research that is often biased against cannabis from the start. A plant with thousands of years of therapeutic history is treated like a fringe drug instead of an area of legitimate study. This isn't just a research gap. It's a systemic failure in the modern medicine. Who controls the narrative? We're learning about this now, too, in the government. I don't care what side you're on. It's called follow the cha-ching money. Follow the money, and you will find the truth. Let's not pretend the science operates in a vacuum. The way research is conducted, funded, and reported is deeply political and profit-driven. Consider this. Pharmaceutical companies fund the majority of medical research and government officials. Their goal? Return on investment, not necessarily objective truth. Cannabis poses a direct threat to $1 billion industries, including painkillers, sleep aids, antidepressants, and alcohol. Corporate interests control media narratives. If a study suggests cannabis is harmful, it's a headline. If a study suggests benefits, it's buried in academic journals with no media coverage. So when you see a big, bold claim about cannabis harming the brain, ask yourself, who funded the research? What's the study's real mission? Why isn't the full picture, including benefits, being reported? Because in honest science, you don't get clickbait headlines making sweeping declarations. You get nuance, you get careful, measured exploration, and you get a fair read of both sides of evidence. If we don't demand critical thinking in how we interpret cannabis research, we're not just failing the plant, we're failing science itself. The definition of heavy use is totally arbitrary. So the study divided cannabis users into non-users, 10 times lifetime use. Moderate users, 10 to 999 uses.
That's a moderate.
Now, ready?
I don't know. I think I'm like 1,001.
Well, you're a heavy user then, because 1,000 uses is a heavy user.
In a year or like a week?
No, in a lifetime.
Oh, I'm heavy then.
You heavy user, you.
You heavy user.
Hold on.
Oh, wait, there's more.
Who decided that 1,000 uses is heavy?
You're right.
And does 999 uses magically mean your brain is fine? But 1,001 uses turns you into mashed potato.
She does a mashed potato.
I make a really good mashed potato.
No, I am a mashed potato.
Oh, you are?
That's what you said.
1,000. So I probably used cannabis 5 times more, 10 times more, 10 times more than you.
Yeah.
Do I look like a mashed potato?
So it depends how high I am.
I make a good
when
mashed
I'm high,
potato.
I'm like, he looks like a mashed potato.
Potatoes. You can do the twist. You can mash potato. So what's wrong with this? It ignores potency. Smoking low THC cannabis daily for 20 years isn't the same as dabbing 90% THC concentrates weekly or every day. It ignores consumption methods. Smoking, vaping, edibles all affect the brain differently. It lumps all users into broad categories without considering frequency, dose, or duration. What we need instead, studies should analyze THC levels, consumption methods, and long-term patterns, not just slap users into vague categories. No one's talking about CBD, and that's a huge mistake. Cannabis isn't just THC. There's many cannabinoids we've talked about on the show, but this author talks about CBD. It's the quieter, more responsible sibling, one that might actually protect the brain. What this study gets wrong, it doesn't separate THC users from those using CBD-rich cannabis. CBD has neuroprotective properties, meaning it might actually counteract some THC's negative cognitive effects. We've talked about that many times. The real question isn't just, does cannabis affect brain function, but how do different cannabis compounds impact cognition? A smart approach or smarter approach. Future studies should compare THC heavy versus CBD rich cannabis to get a clearer picture. Here's some thoughts. Look, cannabis isn't a free space to sharper brain, but these studies don't prove it's frying your neurons either. What they do prove is that we need better research, studies that actually control for variables, track long-term use, and separate correlation from causation. Here's the bottom line. One study isn't proof. We need long-term research before making the types of bold claims made on about this research. CBD versus THC matters. They have vastly different effects. Brain activation equals permanent damage. Context matters. Consider the full picture. Lifestyle, stress, and withdrawal effects play a huge role. So I want to tell you who this author is who wrote this. It's by the CED Clinic. Let me see if I can find who the author was, because I thought this was one of the best rebuttals, but also played both parts very, very well in this writing. And I don't see a journalist, unfortunately, but it's just a medical care unit by Omega, powered by the World Press, I guess. But unfortunately, I don't see the journalist. I apologize about this, but we will post this so you can read it, and maybe someone can. It's CED Clinic blog. That's all it says here.
No, it's just a blog post.
Yeah, it's phenomenal though.
Nice.
It's like
well,
really,
not that it's just, but that explains there's no author because the author is the blog.
Blog, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks for
or they could
helping
have
me out.
numerous people that write on the blog.
It was great.
Good.
Yeah, it really.
That was
like I
good.
said, after everything I've read, that was spot on. Where is cannabis and the Ordo Amor?
Amori.
Amori.
Amori. Amori.
Amori.
Amoris.
Amori.
Amoris. Amoris. I don't know.
Hey, Morris. How you doing over there?
Morris. What's up?
Tell us about it, Mrs Weedman.
The phrase has become popular. I've never heard it, but okay. So not because if I don't hear about it, then it's surely not popular. Because I'm
surely
so
not popular.
I'm so on top of the trends. Okay, so why not share marijuana's place in it? Politicians have made the phrase popular with modern interpretations, but it has people thinking, where is cannabis in the Ordo Amoris? This Catholic phrase has become popular, but it's an ancient concept rooted in Christian theology, particularly in the works of St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas. It is usually translated as order of love or rightly ordered love. It emphasizes the importance of prioritizing one's affections and responsibilities in a hierarchical manner. People prioritize things in a variety of ways. It seems that lately people have been moving marijuana above alcohol after years as the intoxicant of choice. Younger generations are moving away from alcohol, causing angst in the liquor industry. California sober has become a trend with people leaving booze for marijuana, and the big alcohol companies have seen a drop in both sales and expanded markets. They have even made major investments in marijuana themselves, and in some cases, hemp. The Ordo Amoris concept suggests love should be in order, with God as the primary focus, followed by oneself, then family, neighbors, and on to the broader community. The hierarchy is not meant to diminish the importance of loving all people, but acknowledges that certain relationships carry more immediate obligations. The application of Ordo Amoris can vary based on circumstances. For instance, in cases of extreme need, one might prioritize a stranger over a family member if the stranger's need is more urgent. St. Augustine discussed the concept in his works, City of God and On Christian Doctrine, emphasizing that love should be directed appropriately to avoid sin. He noted that all people should be loved equally, but special regard should be given to those closer to us by circumstance. St. Thomas Aquinas expanded on St. Augustine's ideas in his Summa Theologica, highlighting the importance of loving God first and then prioritizing those closest to us, such as family and community. Of course, people modify this to fit their needs, but it all comes down to being good to others and treating others like yourself. And the Cali Sober trend allows you to move away from the love of alcohol to the healthier love of cannabis.
Yay.
Yeah.
The healthier love.
I just have to say that cannabis ranks high in my Ordo Amoris, but not above you, Mr. Weedman.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Weedman. I thought you were going to say your Abdullah Oblongata doesn't rank as high as that.
Isn't your Abdullah Oblongata your brain? What is your Abdullah? Or did you just make that up?
No.
Hang on, what is it? It's a song.
It's something alligators have in them.
What?
An alligator has
medulla oblongata.
Oh, medulla.
It is your brain.
Yeah.
It's simply the long stem-like structure which makes up the lower part of your brain stem.
Right. That's what alligators have.
The medulla
oblongata. I think it's
medulla oblongata.
Thanks.
Oblongata.
Yeah, you're from the south side.
I got the oblongata. Yo, what is this?
Defense attorneys reveal how to respond when police say they smell a suspicious odor in your car. It's not common for police to pull drivers over for traffic stops. It's not uncommon, I should say.
Yeah.
Often these encounters go quickly and the driver is soon on their way. I don't know about that, but with the officer returning to patrolling, this can sometimes escalate, and the officer may believe they smell a suspicious odor coming from the car. They often signals that the person behind the wheel is either driving under the influence or may have narcotics in the vehicle. Recently, an attorney revealed how to respond when the police say they notice an odor that shouldn't be there. Most traffic stops are over quickly, but things could escalate for a variety of reasons. Traffic stops are among the most common ways police officers keep the road safe. However, drivers should know how to respond to unique situations when they believe they haven't committed crimes. Recently, an attorney from Cannon and Associates took to their TikTok to discuss what drivers should say when the police feel a suspicious odor present in the car. First, he says that the police often use the suspicious odor claim to establish probable cause and to search the vehicle during the traffic stop.
You all right?
No, I got lost in the sauce there for a second. I did.
Like, what am I reading?
I forgot something. Basically, that's what it was. He says that the arguments such as "I haven't smoked" or "there's nothing in my car" are incorrect course of action. In fact, he says they could make the situation worse, even for innocent people. He then says to remain calm and polite and say, "I do not consent to any searches." The attorneys then says drivers should request that the officer document any alleged smells in the report. In the end, he says that doing this on a traffic stop asserts your constitutional rights. Additionally, it creates a record for court purposes that you did not consent to the search, making it easier to challenge any potential charges in court. Despite knowing how to respond, it's still important that you avoid driving under the influence or transporting any illegal substances. So, but just remember,
Fair enough.
I do not consent.
It's so hard in the moment.
This.
You're like, blah.
Not me.
Yeah. I know you're
I'm
Mr.
pretty calm.
Mr. Calm and Cool over here.
Well,
like,
I used to
put
drive.
this guy like in an interview,
I used to
like,
drive with like 50 pounds of weed in my car, so I'd have to be calm and cool.
poker face.
You got to. I mean, if you ever got pulled over, I mean, listen, I watched a lot of movies and read a lot of books about pedaling and running. Man, you got to just be chill, and you got to be calm, and you got to like do everything right in the traffic stop. If you're, you got to like, don't fuck up to where you get pulled over. You just got to be calm, cool, and collective. Or carry your 74-year-old grandmother in the back car with you, and you'll be okay. Sorry, Grandma. Rest in peace.
Pre Uber days, you're just driving around with your little old grandma. Well, a 74-year-old grandma when we were in our 20s looked like a 74-year-old grandma. Nowadays, she might look like your girlfriend or something.
Depending on where you live. That's true, too. Medical marijuana is more effective than prescription medications for treating chronic pain, study finds.
Yep.
Tell us about it, Ms. Weedman.
New
Chronic pain. This is a big one.
Yeah, this is big. New research on the use of medical marijuana for pain finds that it was comparatively more effective than prescription medications for treating chronic pain after a 3-month period, and that many patients reduced their use of opioid painkillers while using cannabis. The study, conducted in part by a federal researcher at the National Cancer Institute and funded by the state of Pennsylvania's Medical Marijuana Academic Clinical Research Program, was published late last month in the journal Pain. The report concludes that despite some methodological limitations, the analysis was able to determine, using causal inference techniques, that the use of medical marijuana for chronic pain under medical supervision is at least as effective and potentially more effective in relationship to patients with chronic pain treated by prescription medications, both non-opioid and opioid. The study, by authors at the University of Pittsburgh, Harvard Medical School, and NCI, compared patient-reported outcomes and electronic medical record data from 440 medical marijuana patients and 8,114 people who received conventional medications. Notably, the demographics of the groups differed somewhat, with the medical marijuana group having a higher percentage of Black patients and patients with medical comorbidities, and reported drug use, as well as a lower rate of tobacco use. Conditions and pain levels also differed, with medical marijuana patients having a lower percentage of spinal pain diagnosis, but a higher rate of fibromyalgia, neuropathic pain, headaches, arthritic conditions, and other musculoskeletal pain. Regardless of those differences, authors said, their analysis allowed them to make rigorous comparisons to a control group receiving prescription medications. In sum, using a causal inference approach, we found that medical marijuana was comparatively more effective than prescription medication treatment for chronic pain, with the odds of responding being 2.6 times higher in the medical marijuana group, and having twice the predicted probability of a positive response, the report says. While we found that medical marijuana was comparatively more effective, we cannot extrapolate to conclude that medical marijuana is likely more effective in other populations, particularly because we compared two different populations. A more conservative interpretation of our results, it continues, is that medical marijuana is at least as effective as prescription medication for chronic pain. Specifically, among medical marijuana patients, 39% had a meaningful treatment response after 3 months, compared to 35% of people on traditional medication. Authors noted that the rates are in line with many randomized controlled trial results of medicinal cannabis for pain. The positive response among medical cannabis patients was also maintained at 6 months, speaking to its durability, the report says. Among the 157 medical marijuana patients who also had been prescribed opioids, authors observed a 39% reduction in prescribed morphine milligram equivalents, or MMEs, a standard measure of opioid dosage over 6 months of treatment. 39% reduction. This is meaningful in that lower daily MMEs is associated with an improved safety profile, they wrote, adding that the findings seemingly contradict other studies, finding no opioid-sparing effects of marijuana. While we cannot conclude that medicinal cannabis is opioid-sparing, the study continues, our results do point to possible use as an adjunct in trying to wean opioids successfully. Well, I'd say 39% of people were backing off of their opioids. The research team acknowledged some limitations to the study, including that the types of cannabis products and dosage amounts, including THC and CBD levels, for example, were unknown, which precludes the determination of any dose or dose-response relationship to medical marijuana outcomes. Authors were also unable to determine potential differential therapeutic effects of various medications, such as opioids or non-opioids versus medical cannabis, they wrote. And finally, we were unable to track the potential harms of medical marijuana, such as development of cannabis use disorder and such effects that have been noted in systemic reviews. The new paper says, it does not, however, mention the ability to track opioid use disorder among their control group. The findings come amid separate reports indicating that marijuana is a promising treatment for pain. A recent federally funded study, for example, shows that legislation of marijuana in the United States is associated with reduced prescriptions for opioid pain medications among commercially insured adults, indicating a possible substitution effect where patients are choosing to use cannabis instead of prescription drugs to treat pain. I'm one of those people. These results suggest that substitution of cannabis for traditional pain medications increases as the availability of recreational cannabis increases. Authors of that report wrote, noting that there appears to be a small shift once recreational cannabis becomes legal, but we see stronger results once users can purchase cannabis at recreational dispensaries. Reductions in opioid prescription fills stemming from recreational cannabis legalization may prevent exposure to opioids in patients with pain. The paper, published in journal Cannabis, continues. And it could lead to decreases in the number of new opioid users, the rates of opioid use disorder, and related harms. Other recent research has shown a decline in fatal opioid overdoses in jurisdictions where marijuana was legalized for adults. That study found a consistent negative relationship between legalization and fatal overdoses, with more significant effects in states that legalized cannabis earlier in the opioid crisis. Authors estimated that recreational marijuana legalization is associated with a decrease of approximately 3.5 deaths per 100,000 individuals. Our findings suggest that broadening recreational marijuana access could help address the opioid epidemic, the report says. Previous research largely indicates that marijuana primarily for medical use can reduce opioid prescriptions, and we find it may also successfully reduce overdose deaths. Further, this effect increases with earlier implementation of recreational marijuana legalization, it added, indicating this relationship is relatively consistent over time. Another recently published report into prescription opioid use in Utah following the state's legalization of medical marijuana found that the availability of legal cannabis both reduced opioid use by patients with chronic pain and help drive down prescription overdose deaths statewide. Overall, results of the study indicated that cannabis has a substantial role to play in pain management and the reduction of opioid use, it said. Yet another study, published in 2023, linked medical marijuana use to lower pain levels and reduce dependence on opioids and other prescription medications. And another, published by the American Medical Association last February, found that chronic pain patients who received medical marijuana for longer than a month saw significant reductions in prescribed opioids. About 1 in 3 chronic pain patients reported using cannabis as a treatment option, according to a 2023 American Medical Association published report. Most of that group, I need some water. That was a big article.
It is a long article. Better.
Sorry about that. Most of that group said they used cannabis as a substitute for other pain medications, including opioids. So this just goes on. And another research published letting people buy CBD legally significantly reduced opioid prescription rates. A 2022 research paper analyzed Medicaid data on prescription drugs and found that legalizing marijuana for adult use was associated with significant reductions in the use of prescription drugs. Boom. A 2023 report linked state-level medical marijuana legalization to reduce opioid payouts to doctors. Another data point suggesting that patients use cannabis as an alternative to prescription drugs when given legal access. Researchers in another study published last year looked at opioid prescription and mortality rates in Oregon, finding that nearby access to retail marijuana moderately reduced opioid prescriptions, though they observed no corresponding drop in opioid-related deaths. That's unfortunate. A report published recently in the journal BMJ Open compared medical marijuana and opioids for chronic non-cancer pain and found that cannabis may be similarly effective and result in fewer discontinuations than opioids, potentially offering comparable relief with a lower likelihood of adverse effects. Another separate research published found that 57% of patients with chronic musculoskeletal pain said cannabis was more effective than other analgesic medications, while 40% reported reducing their use of other painkillers since they began using marijuana. In Minnesota, meanwhile, a new state government reports on chronic pain patients enrolled in the state's medical marijuana program and recently said participants are finding a noticeable change in pain relief. This just goes on and on. It's amazing. So if you just ask me, all in all, it's cannabis for the win. If you have pain, if you want to have a more holistic and natural approach to treating it and not a addictive, life-ruining drug, go for weed.
Do you know why?
Weed wins.
Do you know why?
Why what?
Do you know why cannabis is so amazing?
Because the plant has angels in its
Now
leaves.
you're learning.
I still don't know how. You say it in like 2 words and it's like a roundabout thing for me.
This is concerning. And there is a lot of waste in corporate cannabis, and we need to get better. This is concerning. Know that cannabis stat leaves industry reeling. The cannabis plant is multifaceted and has the potential to do the world loads of good. From helping the sick to acting as an alternative to plastics, there's a lot the plant can do. But while the potential to help the environment is certainly there, the legal industry's negative impact is also a concern. According to a new report, cannabis may be doing more harm to the earth than previously thought. The white paper from Even Mills of California-based consulting firm Energy Associate states that indoor cannabis cultivation is generating a concerning amount of carbon emissions. The analysts suggest indoor weed grows across the country use more power than all other outdoor agricultural combined. The indoor cultivation process is energy intensive, there's no question. Lights, heating and cooling, dehumidifiers, watering systems, and fans all take a lot of juice. Mills writes that the annual emissions from the cannabis industries are equal to that of 10 million cars or 6 million homes. That's not the only sector of the legal industry gobbling up energy. Regulations demanding each plant have plastic tracking tags and requiring child-safe packaging and novels worth of information and warnings also concern. Transportation, storage, and waste also contribute to the market's carbon emissions. A solution to the problem. Many within the industry have recognized the environmental concerns and are working towards change, from deploying more energy-efficient practices in production to developing vape recycling programs. A small amount of progress has been made. However, Mills reports that there's only one thing that could truly change the game for better: grow under the sun. The most promising avenue could reduce emissions up to 76% by shifting more cultivation outdoors, Mills writes. Cannabis farmers have been cultivating outside for generations. However, a state-by-state piecemeal approach has meant sun-grown weed from places like the Emerald Triangle cannot be exported to states where outdoor cannabis is not sustainable or legal at scale. Mills believes a shift in policy as well as a consumer education about the benefits of sun-grown could help tip the scales. Judy Nelson, a co-owner of Soul Spirit Farm, has been advocating for regenerative practices and sensible legalization in cannabis for years. She previously told Green State that the lack of direct-to-consumer sales and monocropping requirements in California state law have had an undue environmental burden. However, it's the large indoor facilities that are the planet's true enemy. By math, you can transport an eighth of sun-grown 16 million miles by train before you would equal the carbon footprint of growing the eighth indoors. Even better if we could ship through the mail across state lines, Nelson said. The legal cannabis market will only get bigger as time moves on. Concerns over the environmental impact of the supply chain must be addressed sooner rather than later, particularly as the climate change continues to take hold. Fortunately, there are some in the industry working to make the space more sustainable, but it's going to take a massive shift to truly tip the scales. I've been saying that for a while. We've been talking about certain things in the cannabis industry we can do better at. So this is another thing that's crazy. How safe is your weed, Mrs. Weedman?
Yeah.
Patchy regulations may leave contaminants in the weed supply.
Yep.
Tell us about it.
Yep, we've talked about this before, and this is another perspective that's pretty interesting. The number of Americans who use marijuana has doubled over the past decade, according to a survey by Gallup. In many parts of the U.S., weed is legal under state law, and many Americans now use it casually. But finding cannabis products that are safely sourced and properly regulated can be tricky. In a new series, NPR is looking at what consumers should know about the safety of weed supply. Of course, cannabis itself is associated with health risks, whether it's contaminated or not. As cannabis products become more potent and as more Americans consume greater quantities of them, researchers say there are significant risks in the areas of brain function and mental health. But for consumers who choose to partake, there's another layer of concern. Traces of other harmful substances like pesticides, molds, and heavy metals that might be lurking in a tasty-looking edible or nicely packaged vape. State regulators are trying to contain the problem, but researchers say they have a way to go. Here are 4 things to know about the safety of marijuana products and the landscape of regulation today. 1. States disagree about which contaminants to test for. Overall, state regulators are looking to keep cannabis products free of contaminants that can be introduced during the growing and producing process, including pesticides, mold, bacteria, solvent residues, and heavy metals like arsenic, which can come from the soil. All of these things have the potential to cause harm, either in the short term or in the long term, but regulation is tricky because, on the federal level, cannabis is still illegal. Not every state has legalized cannabis, and those that have often regulate it differently. Maxwell Leung, an assistant professor at Arizona State University, did a study in 2022 about the patchwork of cannabis regulations. We found that there are over 600 contaminants that are regulated across some 30 states that have legalized cannabis at the time, Leung said. But interestingly, in each jurisdiction, there's only somewhere between 60 and 120 contaminants that are regulated. So a pesticide that might prompt one state to put cannabis off the shelf, another state might not even be looking for. Simple testing for more contaminants doesn't necessarily make a state's cannabis products safer, because it's hard to say which contaminants are the most hazardous to human health. 2. The black market is still booming. Not only are there conflicting regulations state by state, cannabis is still illegal under federal law, which means properly regulated products can't be shipped legally from one state to the next. Those restrictions have left a huge space for underground producers and distributors, some backed by criminal organizations. NPR has found those products are often grown and processed in unsanitary conditions, with banned pesticides and unhealthy working conditions, and they typically don't have trustworthy potency guidelines. We're talking about a market that lacks transparency and accountability. Whether I was getting cannabis or alcohol or my broccoli from an unregulated market, I'd be concerned about a number of issues, says Paul Armentano, Deputy Director of NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Even many storefront shops around the U.S. are selling black market weed. This is one of the biggest challenges for consumers right now. If you want legal, regulated weed, you have to do your research and really understand how your cannabis products are sourced, and that's not always easy. 3. It will get easier for consumers. Activists, historians, and drug policy experts NPR spoke with expect the legal cannabis landscape to get easier to navigate. When you move from prohibition to legalization, it takes time to significantly reduce the size of the illegal market, said Bo Kilmer at the RAND Drug Policy Research Center. Drug policy experts point out the end of alcohol prohibition in the 1930s was also messy. It took years for legal alcohol brewers and distillers to push out the illegal moonshine operators. There was a black market for years with moonshine after prohibition ended, said Daniel Okrent, a historian whose book Last Call is a tale of alcohol bans in the U.S. Statewide prohibition laws in some states lasted into the 1950s and 1960s. They were ignored, but they existed. Legal cannabis producers say they think over time the safer regulated marijuana brands will win, making it easier for consumers to know which products to grab off the shelf. 4. Legal weed offers some comfort. In states and communities where it is available, legal weed is more likely to be free of many contaminants like pesticides and mold because states require testing of the product. And the people growing the marijuana plants, making the products, and selling them legally, they want to keep their customers safe and stay in business. In California, there were more than 60 recalls in 2024. That includes cannabis flower buds, pre-rolled marijuana cigarettes, edibles, and vape products. That's up from just 4 cannabis recalls the year before in the same state. Officials tell NPR it's due, I'm dying over here, to an increase in testing. So testing is helpful. Zara Ruse, who's in charge of environmental compliance and manufacturing safety at the California Department of Cannabis Control, says the uptick in recalls is a sign the system is working, and it makes her proud of the hard work her team has done. I think it's indicative of the fact that the department is pulling out all stops to make sure that the tools and resources that we have are being used to keep consumers safe, she says. Researchers are still looking at how effective these consumer protections might be, but for now, if you're getting your cannabis in a store that has regulated products, there's definitely less risk of encountering contaminants.
Yay.
Yay.
Hey, everybody out there, don't forget to check out 8decades.com. To get all your cannabis accessory needs, check out 8decades.com. Learn a little something about Mr. and Mrs. Weedman in our bio, and check out and sign up for our newsletter. We have all your latest needs for cannabis accessory clothing line, smoke set. We have grinders. We have storage jars. We have everything you need with the 8 Decades line on there and the Weedman 420 clothing line. Check out 8decades.com. What?
You sound like an official commercial.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Try to sound like Walter Cronkite.
That's who you want to sound like.
Yes. And you know what? Probably our age group now of listeners now, because I looked at it. So I got an email from Spotify, and our age group on Spotify listeners now are 32 to 58.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they would get it.
They would
who
get
Walter
it.
Cronkite is. So, political state and business news. Illinois cannabis sales exceeded $2 billion in 2024. $2 billion, $1.96 billion in 2023, so they were up 3% from 2022. And in 2024, sales increased 2% to $2.01 billion. That's med and rec together. Pretty good. State of Illinois announces new vendor for cannabis seed to sales system. The state of Illinois announced today that last week that it executed the contract for a new seed to sales system for Illinois growing medical and adult use cannabis programs. Metric is a highly configurable, secure, and scalable system that will be modernized Illinois' evolving cannabis industry with regulatory systems. Good for you, Metric. BioTrack out, Metric in. U.S. cannabis industry posts 11 consecutive years of growth, but a slowing pace. Despite recording the 11th consecutive year of growth, the U.S. legal cannabis industry expansion slowed in 2024, with revenues increasing by a modest 6% to $30.2 to $30.7 billion, according to the recent report by the Oregon-based Whitney Economics. Whitney Economics attributes the slowing growth partially to the lack of progress in the federal cannabis reform, including stalled rescheduled hearings and stagnant congressional legislation on banking, tax reform, and interstate commerce. The level of credibility that Congress has with the cannabis industry is at an all-time low. Noted Whitney, the inaction has contributed to a notable 70% rise in states with declining year-over-year retail revenue, with 6 mature markets collectively losing $457.9 million in revenue. Some marijuana products sold in Massachusetts contain high levels of yeast mold, officials warn. Massachusetts cannabis regulators warned Monday a slew of products, including marijuana flower and pre-rolls sold in recent months, are contaminated or potentially contaminated, the State House News reported. The products, which had cleared earlier compliance testing back in March of 2024 and June of 2024, were sold at marijuana retailers and medical marijuana treatment centers between May of 31st of 2024 to January 23rd. That's some old weed.
Yeah. Did you say marijuana treatment centers?
Did I? I don't know. No, I don't think so. Massachusetts cannabis regulatories? No, I didn't say treatment centers. Effective products.
There's a marijuana treatment center? Is that just a place where is that like another
State House,
AKA consumption lounge?
The State House News Service reported the marijuana retailers and medical marijuana. Oh yeah, treatment centers.
Treatment center. Is that a consumption lounge?
I guess.
A treatment center?
I want to go to a treatment center.
Yeah.
Effective products.
Specifically a marijuana treatment center.
Yes. Effective products strains include carbon fiber, frosted jungle, Highland OG, and silver kush. I'm good right now. Thank you. 62% of Texans support adult use cannabis legalization. A University of Houston report shows of 62% of Texans support legalization of adult use cannabis, with majorities across political, gender, and racial lines. Striking the 79% back medical cannabis and 69% favor decriminalization cannabis possessions for those 21 and older. Republicans also show increased support. Despite this, Texas remains restrictive with cannabis laws capping THC at 1%. There is medical there, but there's also a bazillion hemp fucking head shops right now selling, like bazillion of them in Texas. So
definitely a bazillion.
Bazillion.
At least.
Yes. A hazillion or a quadzillion?
No, bazillion. Bazillion.
You like the bazillion? Mm-hmm. It's doing $540 million a friggin' month or a year in Texas. Give me a minute. I got to finish this because if I smoke that again, I'm going to go slump Lord Meme God on everybody. And I want to get through the news. Minnesota to open up cannabis business license applications. The Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management, OCM, announced that it will begin accepting cannabis business license applications on February 18th, 2025. OCM will be accepting applications through March 14th of 2025. As the first license cycle opens to all applicants for 10 cannabis business licenses types, a high volume of applications is expected. OCM anticipates starting lotteries in May, June timeframe, explained Jim Walker of the OCM. Tennessee lawmakers introduced adult use medical marijuana legalization bill. Senate Bill 0809, introduced by Democratic State Senator Jeff Yarbo, would establish the rules for production, distribution, and sale of recreational cannabis products, according to Nashville TV station. SB 0809, known as the Tennessee Cannabis Act, also will allow adults 21 and older to possess, transport up to 60 grams of flower, personal cultivation up to 12 plants. Hell yeah, 12 plants. I'm moving to Tennessee. House Bill 0872, introduced by Republican Rep. Iris Rutter, would legalize medical marijuana for patients with the required qualifying conditions. They're coming across the aisle here. Let's go. WSM report HB 0872, known as the Tennessee Medical Cannabis Act, also would allow business to cultivate, produce, distribute, and sell medical cannabis. Pot for Potholes, though. It's the Pot for Potholes Act bill proposed fixing Tennessee roads by legalizing marijuana. Another bill was filed that proposes turning marijuana sales into infrastructure revenue for the state of Tennessee. The idea comes as Representative Afton Bain, Nashville, and is being dubbed the Pot for Potholes Act. She filed HB 0703 on February 3rd, which calls for the state to establish a way of controlling marijuana growth and sales and using the revenue to improve roads. The Senate version of the bill, the SB 0921, was filed by Heidi Campbell on February 5th. There are two bills related to legalizing marijuana under the consideration of General Assembly. Judge, a lot of Tennessee. Ready? Another one. Tennessee. Hemp industry more time before statewide product ban takes effect. So basically going to screw the hemp industry and move cannabis right in. Terrible. The sale of popular hemp products will remain legal in Tennessee until at least June, when the legal challenge to the state rules that would outlaw many best-selling products goes to trial in Nashville. The decision represents a 6-month reprieve for Tennessee hemp industry, which has grown an estimated $280 million to $560 million annual sales since the products were legalized nearly 6 years ago, according to the industry survey data. That's a lot of money for hemp. Lawmakers files first marijuana bill of new Congress aiming to protect veterans' medical cannabis access. Thank you. Michigan recalls THC vape cartridges due to unsafe ingredients. Consumers advised to check products. The Cannabis Regulatory, in coordination with the RWB, has issued a voluntary recall of platinum vape brand cartridges containing medium chain triglyceride chain MCT oil, a substance unsuitable for inhalation. Flavored affected include garlic cookie, blazing blue cheese, banana candy, and Grape Valley Kush.
Oh, I want some of that Grape Valley Kush.
Yeah, but not from fucking that.
No.
Not with MCT oil in it. I want flour, not vape.
Oh, no.
Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro looks to legalize and tax marijuana to balance the state budget. Pennsylvania Governor Weed to the rescue.
Yeah.
Right? Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro pushing for the legalization of recreational cannabis to balance the state's budget. He estimates it could generate $1.3 billion in tax revenue. Ooh. Over 5 years. Okay. I thought we were going to say a year. I was like, that's revenue one state does sometimes. Shapiro also seeks to tax unregulated gambling machines and promote social equity by expunging nonviolent cannabis convictions despite growing public and bipartisan support. Concerns about the federal law and revenue reliance remain barriers. New police force could be coming to New Mexico to enforce cannabis laws. House Bill 10, sponsored by Representative Dorian Gellux, the officers would be armed and work under the Cannabis Control Division to take cannabis-related offenses. Great. Florida Republican senators refiles medical marijuana homegrown bill, this time without unrelated hemp product restrictions. Remember, I don't remember what episode, 2 episodes ago, he put it in both. Now it's just going to try to do a growing bill. The new bill, SB 456, filed on Friday, would allow state-registered cannabis patients 21 and older to grow up to 2 plants for personal use, provided by they have to apply and obtain a certificate from the State Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services.
Come on.
And you have to I think you have to tell them how much you grow and stuff too. Like it's gonna be highly regulated for 2 plants. My God, Florida, ass backwards.
Well, at least they can grow something.
Yeah,
it's a start.
Well, they gotta get it passed.
Start.
They gotta get it passed. Florida Supreme Court, though, they're saying will reject 2026 cannabis legalization proposal. Governor predicts. DeSantis predicts that the state Supreme Court will reject 2026 cannabis legalization proposal due to its unclear constitutional language. He criticized placing cannabis reform in the Constitution and raised concerns about lobbying and corporate influence. The proposal from Smart and Safe Florida aims to prohibit public smoking, driving under influence, and marketing to children. Florida voters narrowly rejected the 2024 measure. Advocates hope to improve homegrown rights and address DeSantis' objections. Brutal. Virginia, Senate okays adult-use marijuana retail. House advances companion bill, which is great, but they're saying that Governor Glenn Youngkin previously vetoed similar efforts, but the new proposal addresses his concerns. So we'll see if medical marijuana licenses will have an advantage in the market until 2030. Crazy, right? I mean, totally legal in Virginia, but you can't buy it at a recreational. There's none to buy. You have to have med card. You just home grow. Weird. So strange. Connecticut state officials withdraws from DA marijuana reschedule hearings amid behind-the-scenes shenanigans. Lots of shenanigans going on with this DEA marijuana rescheduling. Shenanigans. Connecticut official from the Office of Cannabis withdrew from DEA marijuana rescheduling hearing due to concerns over biased administrative practices and lack of trust in the process. Allegations arose that the DEA conspired with anti-rescheduling witnesses, leading to Connecticut withdrawal and complicating efforts to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to 3. The official cited the need to focus on better serving Connecticut patients and advocating for further cannabis research. We don't talk much about this state, but Alaska, cannabis industry shows support for tax reform bill. A bill introduced by Senator Matt Coleman, Anchorage, would provide tax relief for similar marijuana businesses and brings Alaska cannabis taxation policy more in line with other states. On Monday, Coleman told the Senate Labor and Commerce Committee the Senate Bill 73 falls in line with recommendations made by Governor Mike Dunleavy's marijuana task force. Alaska, man, I heard you grow great weed out there. I cannot wait to one day go out there, man. I want to smoke some Alaskans weeds. Kentucky's first medical cannabis dispensary could be open in Boone County. Bluegrass Canacare is set to become one of northern Kentucky's first medical cannabis dispensaries. Good for you. Get that open. Hawaii House bill. Remember we talked how happy we were going to move there? Mm-hmm. Not anymore. Hawaii House.
That's over.
Hawaii House kills recreational marijuana bill again.
Jeez.
Efforts to legalize recreational marijuana and establish a retail program in Hawaii have been thwarted again by the legislator's more conservative House of Representatives. House Bill 1246, which would have established a regulatory agency to oversee adult use of medical marijuana and hemp, failed to advance the full floor vote, according to the Honolulu Civic Beat. Boo. New GOP bill would block marijuana industry tax deductions even after federal rescheduling. A new bill by the GOP Senator James Lankford and Pete Ricketts aims to prevent marijuana businesses from claiming federal tax deductions even if cannabis is rescheduled to Schedule 3. The bill would mostly modify IRS Code 280, maintaining that the ban of deductions for businesses engaged in marijuana sales. Smart approach to marijuana. Sam backed the bill, arguing it prevents tax breaks for an addiction for profit industry. Oh, my God. The bill targets the industry to potential $2 billion tax break post rescheduling. And there's something that came up, Mrs. Weedman and I caught earlier, which I'm so excited about before you talk about your article. The American teacher, Mark Fogel, freed from Russia, the White House says. American Mark Fogel, who has been held in Russia since being arrested on drug charges in 2021, has been freed, according to the White House. Today, his special envoy, the president's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, are able to announce that Mr. Witkoff is leaving Russian airspace with Mark Fogel, an American who was detained by Russia. The White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said in the statement, the president, Steve Witkoff, and the president's advisors negotiated a challenge that serves as a show of good faith from the Russians and a sign we are moving in the right direction to end the brutal and terrible war in Ukraine. Fogel, an American teacher who was arrested in Russia and was serving a 14-year sentence there, was determined to be wrongfully detained by the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on October 2024. The State Department confirmed to ABC News in late December. By tonight, Mark Fogel will be on American soil and reunited with his family and loved ones, thanks to President and leadership of both sides, Waltz added in the statement.
Wow.
Yay. Yay. Bring him home. And don't be scared to smoke weed ever again.
It was just for weed possession, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
And he has a medical condition. I think it was, I don't even know if it was weed. I think it was CBD, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I can't remember if it was weed or CBD. Whatever. 14 years. I think he didn't even have like an eighth on him. Like nothing. They could have just ate it and threw it away, and gave him a fine.
Jeez.
In the rubles, Yeah. It's just crazy. Crazy, that poor guy. But you know what? They came together. They got him out. He's home.
Yep.
So, if you consume cannabis, Mrs. Weedman, what should you be doing?
All right. If you consume cannabis, you should be supporting cannabis journalism. Here's why. As the cannabis industry evolves and expands and newsrooms across America continue to shrink and the role of the cannabis journalist, it will become increasingly important. If you're into weed, you should also be into the fine work that dedicated cannabis journalists are doing every day. Cannabis consumers, yes, you really do have a responsibility to support the people who play a critical role in shaping public perception, influencing policy, and keeping us educated on developments surrounding our favorite plant. Those reporters, freelance writers, bloggers, podcasters, photographers, videographers, editors, producers, they all play a crucial role in the modern media space by sharing critical information everywhere. With accurate and nuanced reporting, cannabis journalists help educate the public about the realities of consumption, its potential benefits and risks, and how it's successfully integrating into our society. They are covering the industry the same as others would cover oil and gas, transportation, or hospitality, normalizing cannabis and legitimizing the industry at scale. They are transforming the manner in which mainstream media handles what is still a relatively new and evolving policy issue, and as a result, creating a more accepting social climate for consumers like you and me. Another benefit for consumers is that cannabis journalists serve as watchdogs for the industry by holding companies and regulators accountable. There's no shortage of examples of safety concerns, such as levels of pesticides, like we just talked about, in flower and concentrates, edible potency mislabeling, and lab shopping. You remember that, lab shopping? That's a scandal. And they have all been unearthed by diligent reporters. And that type of investigative work benefits the industry and all of us in the short and long term. It's also important to have an honest look at the risks of cannabis and understand it's not for everyone. With more consumers experiencing cannabis, more consumers are also experiencing cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome and weed-involved drug-to-drug interactions. Cannabis journalism or journalists provide valuable information on the fluid legal landscape of the industry. Regulations can vary widely city to city, state to state, province to province, and country to country. Journalists help navigate the complex terrain of granular, local, and state-level ordinances and regulations and keep readers and listeners updated on legal changes, policy debates, and potential impacts on consumers. I would be selling reporters short if I didn't mention how their work also contributes to the much-needed advancement of cannabis research and medical applications. When they report on scientific studies or medical breakthroughs, journalists are literally disseminating important information about the potential health effects and therapeutic uses of cannabis. This information is invaluable for medical cannabis patients and those considering cannabis as a treatment option. Supporting cannabis journalists also means supporting a more diverse and comprehensive media landscape. The cannabis beat now intersects with plenty of other important topics such as economics, politics, health, and culture. This broader coverage helps integrate cannabis into mainstream discussions and promotes a more holistic understanding of its societal impact. Our very democracy depends on journalism, as do our business sectors. And I am so thankful for the cannabis journalists who cover this space day in and day out. They are legitimately elevating, normalizing, and influencing how the public views and interacts with this spectacular plant. Start by signing up for Green State's field guide to cannabis culture, trends, advice, and products. The next time you find yourself reading, listening to, or benefiting from a story there or a column in any way, ask yourself, am I supporting an outlet? Am I supporting any media that's promoting cannabis if it's something I believe in? How can I support them? You can sign up for their newsletters. You can share their information on your social channels and tag them back. Because really, together, we're all advocating and being proponents for growth and more science and just more of a legitimate industry.
Stopping a stigma, freeing the plant.
Yep.
Legalization. I mean, all I do is read about weed.
Yeah.
From the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. And I work in the industry, so my whole life revolves around what? Weed. And I enjoy, like I said, Mrs. Weedman knows, I read, constantly am reading about the industry and about plant, and I enjoy the hell out of it. It's just like, going to school for it and just all day getting to read a lot of these journalists' write-ups, but also going into science data and reading articles that scientists put out and doctors put out, and the good, the bad, the ugly. You got to know it all. Yeah, and it's highly enjoyable, to be able to participate in this, and to be able to talk about it and to also do it with you, and how much you have grown by reading and reading these articles and learning about weed. I've watched you in so many years, knowing really very little to what you know now. Now I watch you in conversation, being able to hold your own. It's very nice how much you've learned and how much knowledge you've gained over the last, I don't know, since you really started concentrating on weed, like learning about it. It's impressive, and I get the honor to be able to read and listen and learn from all teachers and journalists and bloggers and movies and documentaries and all that about weed. I get to enjoy learning. Like I said, I'll never be an expert, because once you're an expert, you feel like you don't need to learn anymore, and you stop reading, as much as you should.
I'm far from an expert.
Me too. So, but that was really good, Mrs. Weedman. Thank you.
Yeah.
International news: Calgary to consider allowing legal cannabis sales at adult-only events. Calgary may soon allow cannabis sales at adult-only events like music festivals if City Council approves a motion from County Courtney Penner. The change would align Calgary with Alberta's updated rules, giving licensed cannabis retailers the opportunities as alcohol vendors. Love that. Supporters argue that this could reduce illicit market activity and boost business. The motion is set for debate on February 25th. Pass it. Questions reemerged about possibility of cannabis tourism in Uruguay. Uruguay is reconsidering cannabis tourism under this new government. I hope so, especially being the first country to legalize marijuana in 2013. Tourism-related sales are restricted to residents only. Discussions on expanding this to tourists have resurfaced, with proponents arguing it could boost the economy and attract tourists. Some businesses support the move, believing it could improve product quality and increase revenue. However, challenges include regulating distribution and ensuring responsible consumption. This journalist got to visit a top-secret UK legal medical cannabis factory. One thing that surprised this journalist is Dalgety, a UK-based cannabis company, operates a high-security medical cannabis farm producing 40 kilograms of dry cannabis flower monthly, equating up to approximately 4,000 prescriptions. The facility, located on a 13-acre site in Midlands, employs 6 full-time growers with horticultural backgrounds and implements stringent security measures, including bulletproof doors and ex-soldier guards. Dalgety cultivates 5 genetically identical strains under tightly controlled conditions, ensuring top-quality yields. The company plans to expand into cannabis oil products next year. Since the legalization of medical cannabis in the UK in 2018, demand has been increasing, with prescriptions rising from 160,000 in 2022 to 360,000 in 2023. Dominica to establish National Cannabis Regulatory Commission. I did not know where Dominica was. It's like in the chain of islands, like St. Lucia, all those over there. I did not know it was there. I had to look it up on a map. Sorry. A senior public servant of Dominica says efforts are being made to establish a national cannabis regulatory commission, noting that the medical cannabis industry can greatly change the agricultural landscape in the country. He said legalization to create medicinal cannabis industry is being developed. The permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Ryan Alstom, says governments across continents are embracing cannabis legalization and blocking its power to create jobs, foster economic diversification, and drive innovation. Marijuana Commission receives Ethics Committee approval for surveys. The Marijuana Commission in Antigua and Barbuda has received approval from the Ethics Committee to begin formal surveys on cannabis use. This follows public concerns regarding the effects of marijuana decriminalization, effects it depicts on the youth. The Commission aims to gather evidence to guide policy decisions with support from experts, including psychologists and researchers. This initiative stems from the government's commitment to data-driven policy, making it as part of ongoing efforts to address concerns about marijuana usage in schools. Local entrepreneurs launched Northern BC's first micro-grow cannabis operation. A dream by 2 local entrepreneurs from Prince George has flourished. They've identified an opportunity in legal cannabis market, which they helped a family and friends. The duo now operates the only full-time micro-grow operation in Northern BC. Cush Mountain Craft Cannabis is the only micro-cultivator in the north that has a license to process its product. The cannabis growing partners are planning to sell more medical-grade cannabis in foreign markets to expand the operation and establish deeper roots in Prince George. Good for them. two buddies growing weed together.
That's good.
Yeah,
The way it should be.
Yeah, let me smoke. Tell you what, this sparkling wine knocked me the hell out for a loopy loop there for a minute. I was seeing.
You came back. You came back.
I did.
Yeah.
William Shatner,
Yes.
Captain Kirk,
He's high on life because he's hooked on magic.
and he's beaming up Scotty right now, right? He's beaming
Yeah.
himself up, right?
Yep.
Tell us about William Shatner. 93 years old. He don't look 93.
I know.
You
I
got
know.
a good head of hair for
He
93.
looks pretty good. William Shatner has been feeling high on life thanks to his magic cannabis products. RadarOnline.com reports that the 93-year-old relies on cannabis products to help soothe his joints, but he's feeling so many other benefits. A source revealed, Bill still has the body of a 93-year-old, but he can do much more because he takes cannabis extracts like CBD and THC to relieve the aches and swelling in his joints. He's got an arthritic back from years of horseback riding, but his magical cannabinoids manage the pain so well, he feels years younger. That's why he has the energy to travel to so many events. He stopped at the New Orleans Fan Expo from January 10th to 12th, and before that he attended a cruise to Antarctica aboard the new Space to Sea seaborne vessel with NASA astronauts Scott Kelly, Jose Hernandez, and moonwalker Charlie Duke. The 93-year-old doesn't seem to have any plans to slow down thanks to the products. While praising THC and CBD, he said, "I'm finding out there are many things that just aches and pain that help aches and pains that we just didn't know about a few years ago." In 2020, he opened up about achieving success with the products, stating, "Well, THC and CBD, it's magical. I've had swollen joints where it hurts. You rub some on, and while you're rubbing it in, the pain disappears. It's magical." He really thinks this stuff is magic. A rep for the actor also gave credit to him trying to stay healthy. He can stand on his feet longer and talk nonstop and can ride horses every day. These products produce a feeling of calm and relaxation, and Bill is clearly in cannabis heaven. He can honestly say he was saved by weed. In late 2024, a source revealed that the actor sparked fears. He was overworking himself and heading for disaster. An insider said he's got all these things he wants to do, and he feels like he doesn't have a lot of time to do them. That's propelling him to go around at breakneck speed. Our source explained that his inner circle was left worried about his schedule. And the source continued that some people feel Bill should slow down and chill out, but he's got this bucket list to fulfill, and he doesn't care a damn about what it's going to do to his health. Bill wants to go out in a blaze. He's always said the secret to longevity is to keep on moving.
Keep on moving. 93.
He's literally going to go out in a blaze, just baked
Blaze of
and
glory.
flying
Right?
through life.
He looks good for 93.
He does. I didn't know he was that old.
Yeah, I mean, I knew. I hadn't seen, really looked at him until I was like, damn.
I thought he was in his 80s.
You would think, right?
Yeah.
But Captain Kirk's been around a long time. Been around the universe a few too many.
Not too many. He's
Beam me
still
up, Scotty.
Beam me up.
Spock, we used to be friends. Now you're mad at me.
I never watched that.
It wasn't. This is the crazy thing about Star Trek.
Yeah.
I think there was only 45 episodes made.
What?
I think that's the number in my head that I've heard, maybe. But it is one of the most diehard fans for a show that was only on 2 or 3 seasons.
That's crazy. I didn't realize
to where Trek-ins, whatever, you just are so diehard, and they go to all these events. And I mean, I watched it. I thought it was good.
I like Lost in Space. That was more my speed.
You are lost in space right now.
There's those 2 astronauts that are lost in space.
Oh,
They're
poor.
stuck there till March.
That sucks.
Could you imagine?
Oh my God. Somebody go save him.
Lost in Space. What would he say?
There was an article I saw, the one woman that's been in space so long because of this that she
Warning. Warning. Remember that?
Yes.
The robot.
The robot with the little typewriter things in his mouth and
Yeah.
talk.
Oh my God.
And he's got the
great.
puffed up arms and shit. Oh, well, at least the Gen Xers like ourselves are listening to us now. Thanks, Gen Xers.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's what you said. You were like,
Yeah.
you always said hopefully Gen Xers would find us, and they have.
Yay.
So we pertain to everybody, though. So hopefully you all enjoy the show. Mrs. Weedman,
Mr. Weedman,
you got anything else to say?
I just hope everybody has a great Valentine's Day. It's going to be coming along here.
This Friday.
Eat some really good chocolate. Yeah. Eat some chocolate and buy yourself flowers,
Buy yourself flowers?
Yeah.
You
I
buy
always
yourself
buy myself
flowers all the time.
Or let someone buy them for you. I don't care. But just get some fresh flowers. It cheers you up.
Yeah.
Chocolate
They always smell
and
good.
flowers.
What is
and
the
flour.
What's the
Oh,
chocolate?
weed.
What's a chocolate that you like to get for Valentine's Day?
Oh, like a dark chocolate marsh.
Oh my gosh. those are
Caramel
so good.
marshmallow
Yes.
enrobed in dark, like a
Yes.
thin, crispy, crunchy.
I have an idea.
Oh, do you?
I do. We'll wait till after
Tricky,
the show.
tricky,
Wait till
tricky,
after the
tricky.
show.
Don't get sneaky.
I have an idea. No, I have an idea. Nothing sneaky.
Okay.
It might sneak up on you.
Whoa.
But it's nothing sneaky. Hey, everybody out there in the world. Happy Valentine's Day. We love you out there. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.